A snowstorm hammers the Yorkshire countryside. Inside a vast stone manor, a single lamp burns in the library. When a maid forces open the door the next morning, she screams. Dr. Helena Morse, a climatologist known for studying pressure seal systems, sits slumped over her desk. Stabbed 17 times. Blood frozen black across the carpet. The key still dangles from the inside of the lock. The windows are sealed shut with 40 years of hardened paint. And the only weapon, the knife, has vanished. No blood trail leading away. No hiding spots large enough. Just gone. Police test the handle for prints. Nothing. The chimney, too narrow. The snow outside, untouched. Officers report a pressure in the air, like the room itself was holding its breath. One detective mutters, "This wasn't a murder scene. It's a trap that reset itself." You walk into the sealed room, knife gone, key dangling inside. No way in or out. How long before you quit this case? Drop a comment if you think you'd crack it in 24 hours. So how does a woman die in a sealed room, with the weapon gone? What if I told you the real killer was never alive to begin with? The investigation started with 3 impossibilities. First, no sign of forced entry. Every window sealed. Every hinge rusted solid. The lock on the door, functional, but only from the inside. Second, the missing weapon. The autopsy confirmed the wounds came from a single, slender blade. But every drawer in the manor was searched. Every vent scanned. The knife had simply ceased to exist. Third, the temperature. The room was 11 degrees colder than the rest of the house. Blood had frozen black, crystalline, like something had pulled the heat out of the room in seconds, but left everything else untouched. That's when the coroner made the first mistake. Dr. Helena Morse wasn't just a victim. She was a climatologist studying pressure seal experiments. Her last entry, hours before her death, read, "If the pressure holds, life stops." Investigators dismissed it as academic nonsense. But one detective saw it differently. He marked 3 notes in the margin of her journal. Physics, intent, environment. That contradiction haunted the case for decades, until someone finally asked the question no one had thought to ask in 1948. The lock didn't need to be picked. The weapon didn't need to exist. And the killer didn't need to breathe. Because the laws of nature don't care about human logic. They only care about pressure, temperature, and time. Day 3 of the investigation. 3 experts. 3 completely opposite conclusions. The forensic tech, someone picked the lock from inside before dying. The mechanism shows internal pressure. The profiler, staged suicide. Post-mortem manipulation. She wanted it to look impossible. The structural engineer, the room was breached. My lab results prove it, but I can't explain how or by what. Each presented evidence. Each had data. And crucially, each was certain the others were wrong. The detective called them into the same room. Put their reports side by side. You're all contradicting each other. So who's lying? The engineer spoke first. No one's lying. The data doesn't lie. The profiler. Then someone's misinterpreting it. The forensic tech. Or we're each looking at different parts of the same event. That's when the detective opened Helena's journal again. 3 words, underlined twice. Physics, intent, environment. What if all 3 experts were right? What if the lock was picked from inside, but not by human hands? What if the room was breached, but only for seconds, then resealed itself? What if it was staged, but by someone who understood that nature could be weaponized? One of the experts, the profiler, who'd solved 87 cases in 20 years, put his head in his hands. You're asking me to accept that we've been outsmarted by a room. The detective looked at Helena's photograph on the evidence board. Not outsmarted, outplayed, by someone who knew exactly what this room could do. But what could kill without entering a room? What force could lock doors, hide weapons, and freeze blood, all while leaving no trace of its presence? The answer was hidden in plain sight. In the walls, in the air, in the laws that govern everything we touch. And it had been waiting there since the room was built. But the psychology was only half the trap. The other half, pure physics. Helena's laboratory was built in 1908, during the era of mixed construction. The door frame, solid steel. The door itself, 100-year-old English oak. When exposed to rapid humidity increase, like the contents of a vapor canister releasing into a sealed space. Oak swells at nearly 3 times the rate of steel. Within minutes, the door became compression sealed. Not locked. Wedged. By physics, not by hand. The key dangling inside? Irrelevant. Helena had unlocked it before the canister triggered. But the compression seal made the lock mechanism meaningless. The knife? That vapor canister contained a highly alkaline aerosol, part of Helena's pressure experiments. When it reacted with a carbon steel blade, it created rapid oxidation. The knife didn't vanish. It disintegrated into rust powder, indistinguishable from the basalt dust on the floor. And the blood? The canister's release dropped the room temperature 18 degrees. Combined with the sudden pressurization, which further lowered the freezing point of liquids, it created flash freezing conditions. The three impossibilities weren't impossible. They were inevitable. Once the canister was triggered, the room didn't kill Helena, but it did exactly what she designed it to do: create the perfect illusion of murder. Whether she triggered it intentionally, or whether it was the ultimate test of her own theory gone wrong, we'll never know. What we do know is this: nature doesn't need motive. It just needs the right conditions. Which raises the question, how many other impossible crimes are just nature, perfectly obeying its laws? And what does that mean for the line between murder and accident? Helena Morse proved something unsettling. The natural world doesn't need intent to trap us. It just needs the right conditions. Every impossible crime, every locked room that baffled investigators. Maybe it wasn't murder. Maybe it was physics, chemistry, and timing creating a perfect illusion. Oak swelling against steel. A chemical reaction quietly dissolving a knife. Flash freezing blood without a human hand. All entirely predictable. All entirely invisible. Until you know where to look. Helena's room was more than a lab. It was a demonstration. A trap for assumptions. A puzzle for perception. Which raises the question, how many other impossible events are just nature waiting for the right trigger? And the unsettling truth, dozens of unsolved cases sit in archives labeled impossible, when they might just be misunderstood physics. The line between human intent and natural consequence is thinner than we realize. What seems malicious may be mathematics. What seems miraculous may be chemistry. And what feels impossible may just be inevitability in disguise. Next time you encounter an unsolvable mystery, remember Helena's room. Remember the oak, the steel, the canister, the flash freeze. The real key isn't who did it. It's understanding how nature did it. So here's my challenge. What other impossible case do you think nature might have solved? Was it a locked room? A vanishing weapon? A death that defied logic? Drop the case name in the comments, but only if you think physics, not a person, might be the real culprit. The best suggestion becomes our next investigation. And that understanding, that's how we turn the impossible into the inevitable.